The best 8 minutes, same mini boxing ever. The indisputable champion world middleweight champion. Welcome great Marvin Hagler. He was a legendary warrior boxing ring ever. But what happening outside the spotlight left fans stunned. And his tale ends point one that still shocks. Join us as we investigate tragic tale of great Marvin Hagler. Champion making. Marvin Hagler was born May 23rd, 1954, in Newark. It was his childhood difficult from the start. He in large grew up in a poor neighborhood, risky and difficult. Crime was everywhere and streets were loaded with violence. His family didn't 12 and felt rich every day of fight to survive. For youth, survival wasn't only food, Marvin or refuge. About learning how strong enough to defend himself. In 1967, Marvin was 12. His life altered forever. That summer, the Newark riots began. These were violence between police and the local black community, caused by years of stress and maltreatment. Fires burned citywide, and streets become war zones. Marvin's family had seen enough. They packed and left Newark behind, seeking tranquility in new location. That was Brockton, Massachusetts. First, life in not much easier was Brockton. Marvin was bashful, introverted youngster trying to find it didn't take long for boxing to get his attention. Into a small gym owned by two brothers Goody and Pat Petronelli. They immediately noticed something remarkable. Marvin. His words were few, but trained with fire in his eyes. Interested in more than boxing. He was utterly smitten. Once, Marvin said, "If they chop my bald head open, I just live to find a glove." The Petronelli brothers didn't merely instruct him to punch. They taught him think, stay calm under pressure and self-confidence. Not only did they help him grow, boxer, but human. Over time, Marvin changed, built up his power, developed southpaw position, fighting with his right his hand forward, confusing him opponents. His body was also trained to accept hits without stopping. His chin strengthened so much that punches barely worked. Shakes him. However, entering the ring proved difficult, just started. Marvin's true fight was with an unwilling system let him win. A band boxer. Marvin A. Band boxer Hagler's professional path boxer began 1973. His debut fighting local fighter Terry Ryan. The match ended quickly. Marvin knocked Ryan out in round 2. Its strong start, and many could see he was powerful and skilled. But even after a promising start, Marvin wasn't noticed opportunity other fighters had obtaining time. The issue wasn't his ability, was his peril. Was. Promoters and fighters saw Marvin, high risk, low reward opponent. This suggested he was too good an easy win. He wasn't famous yet enough to create large money for people involved. So instead of chances, Marvin was ready to challenge the best. Avoid it. Fight stars didn't want to join him in the ring. They were terrified of losing to someone who didn't possess a large following. As Marvin became stuck. He kept winning fights. But those wins bigger matches didn't follow. The boxing politics slowed him. Major promoters ignored him. Many left him off key events and settled for backdrop battling and undercards. It was patterned at years of disrespect. But Marvin didn't gripe. Instead, he fought. Fights were tolerated anywhere and against anyone. He went elsewhere. Cities and fought in modest arenas, often front unknowing audiences. Crowds were sometimes even hostile. Still, Marvin arrived ready to prove himself. Once stated, "I'll fight anyone, anywhere." That was more than a line. His record was built by facing formidable opponents, frequently with lacking assistance and attention. That fight was progress, even if not feeling it. He knew that he had to persevere for genuine final title shot. In 1979, Marvin confronted Vito, WBA, and WBC middleweight, hopeful Animo. His first big title, he faced championship fighter almost everyone viewing. He believed Marvin had definitely won. Punched harder, controlled ring, and appeared stronger throughout. Fight. But the judges ruled a draw was decided. Reporters and fans were shocked. Marvin had done more. Enough to win. And now the title repeated separation. Hurtful reminder that even when tried his hardest, he had to fight opposing injustice. That draw was better, more than a terrible call. It symbolized the system working against his beginning, but Marvin succeeded. Within a year, on September 27, 1980, he went to London will challenge Alan Terror. Championships. Marvin defeated Minter. He destroyed him in a brief struggle. Marvin dominated him in 3 rounds. Powerful, fast, and focused referee stopped fight. Marvin had become undisputed world middleweight champion. But even this victory wasn't enough. No pain. Riot after battle. Arena. Many Terrace fans were upset a black American stole the title from a Brit fighter, threw bottles and garbage. The Marvin team had entered the ring, to flee for safety. Meant to be the best moment instead, his career terminated in pandemonium. He proved his superiority. Victory was bittersweet that contempt had followed him everywhere at the top. Just when he thought things may improve, his battles were going to escalate. The Warriors rule. Warriors rule after years of Marvin was ignored and denied. Hagler ultimately triumphed. World middleweight champion in September 1980. He did not linger. He went directly to rejoice or rest. Returning to work for Marvin champion was just the start. He had to prove his worth to stay, did it again, and his first title. Defense was on January 17, 1981 versus Fincio Omia's Venezuelan undefeated fighter. The match was in Boston. Marvin fought fiercely. Supporters began to expect from he defeated Elmias round after round at 8th round. The referee Marvin won by stoppage, a powerful technical knockout start to his title reign and a sign of future events. Years. Marvin Hagler defended his 12 middleweight titles wherein he simply dominated his battles, often cruel, and most failed. He took on all. Challengers never backed down combatants. Like Mustafa Hamsho, Wilfred Scipion, Juan Domingo Roldanal entered the ring with him. Each lost. Some were knocked out, some badly cut stopped the war. Others were defeated from the start-finish. But he crushed his rivals. Marvin had a big chip. Shoulder. He never forgot how long it took him to gain opportunities even as champion. He deserves still disrespected. Media gave him little attention, gave flashier fighters. Promoters, broadcasters often praised boxers with rapid grins and large endorsements. Marvin was not happy. Is winning. But it doesn't seem tune moment at this time revealed how severely that lack of respect troubled him. Before a battle. 1982. Ring announcer introduced him Marvin Hagler. Skipping the Marvin's Marvelous nickname worked hard for that. The final straw. Marvin went to court and formally changed his name to Wow, Marvin Hagler. Now, everyone had to speak for Marvin. It wasn't just a name, being seen, heard, and appreciated. His disrespect, it fueled him. Slight. Every overlooked headline, every unrecognized win strengthened him. He became dangerous in combat, more than title defenses. Personal, not merely defending. He wanted recognition. What made Marvin so tough was more than his mind. His fighting style was unique. Southpaw. Meaning he led right hand and punched. Most combatants weren't used to leaving. It disrupted their rhythm. Chin that could withstand much even after his sentence. Clean shots kept him moving. In addition, Marvin trained. He was unique in his rigid, regimented life. Other fighters might party or take long breaks. Marvin lived like a soldier. His body was always fit and always focused on the ring. He soon entered the ring most brutal and unforgettable fight career, the Forgotten King. Forgotten King. Many people first saw boxing in the 1980s that consider its most exciting period. At its heart were four famed Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Sugar Thomas Hitman Hearns, Ray Leonard, Roberto Stone, Duran Hands. Became the Four Kings. Together they shaped a golden age. What made this age special for sports? Special was all four really. Today's boxing match top fighters avoid one another to defend their unbeaten weight for the proper contract or recordings. They were four different kings. They fought without waiting. They settled in the ring. Fighting the old-fashioned manner. Fans enjoyed some of boxing's greatest matches but even this group mythology. Marvin Hagler stood out for another reason. Leonard early fame for Hearns and Duran and enormous support. Marvin was the outsider. Others had massive media. Fame, big sponsors, and strong supporters behind them from early careers. They smiled on ads. Magazine covers. Star power. Marvin, meanwhile, had none of. He had the Petronelli brothers, small Brockton gym. Deep hunger. He struggled to prove himself. He fought or signed hefty contracts. Through small, dangerous opponents' venues to gain attention. The summit was built on struggle, not spotlight. Even after becoming champion, Marvin felt strange. Sugar Ray Leonard was boxing's golden boy, gorgeous, nice. Media adored Thomas Hearns, advertised as a knockout emerging star. Duran, already legendary by the time he fought Marvin, had to remind himself he carried that he wasn't resentful in every fight. Competing for titles. Pushing for equality. He knew if he made one error, media would ignore their efforts. However, if others did mistake, they'd remain considered as ratings. A double standard ate away at he faced Hearns, Duran, and later Leonard. Marvin wasn't merely he was contemplating winning. About everything he endured, he was denied shots every time. Every time the media picked someone else, commentators said Marvin over him struggled with something additional. Other warriors rage or drive because for Marvin, every punch was personal. A close 15-round fight with Roberto Duran's smart technological decision. Fight proved Marvin was a fighter and a thinker. Deliver against Hearns. Most violent and memorable historic knockouts, establishing his world ruggedness. When he fought Leonard, it was more than a championship. Defense was a chance to prove firmly that he was better. Relaxation. But no matter his victory stacks, Marvin had to fight harder than the other kings to win same respect. He knew greatness wasn't enough. He had to improve daily. It was time to rule. Sometimes it destroys, nevertheless, still wasn't enough. One fight finally. 3 rounds would give him attention he always deserved. Boxing's deadliest night, the bloodiest night in boxing, was April 15.1985. A memorable year. Historic boxing matches happened at Las Vegas Caesars Palace. Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus Thomas. A confrontation with Hitman Hearns. Wasn't this a typical title defense? Personal and brutal. Intense boxing. Build-up tension surrounded the fight. For weeks, the two warriors fought 23-city press trip for match promotion. First, respect existed between, however, city after city, interview post-interview. Things improved. Long travel days and continual media attention turned. Respect becomes anger. When fight night came, both guys were ready to split apart. Round 1 began with a bell. People expected a slow feeling out. Process failed. From the second, both fighters detonated. Hearns rushed in, punching, throwing his powerful right hand that hit one of his hardest shots. It hit Hagler's chin. Punch that would have knocked out Hagler didn't join most fighters down without reversing. Walking forward stunned him. Everyone if Hearns couldn't injure Hagler's greatest punch. What else? 3 things followed. Continuous violence. Both fighters threw everything. No defense, just power, speed. Later labeled as aggression, considered boxing's most violent 8 minutes history. Fans were shocked that were watching. This wasn't mere fighting. War, then something horrific. In the second round, above Hagler, Hearns cut deep. Blood gushed from right eye. His face was severely injured. For a time, Marvin didn't recognize if happened. The referee halted it. Struggled to get the cut examined. But Hagler's worst nightmare kicked in. Marvin worried about this for years. Losing. Not because he lost, but due to technological issues. Something beyond his control. The toughest fight of his life. That terror become real. He worried might quit fighting due to cut award Hearns the win by default. Marvin wouldn't allow that. When they fought again, he appeared like a crazed man. Ignored the blood. Hearns was punched directly. Raged and moved quickly. Hearns was pinned, crushed right hand knocked him down. Hearns tried to stand, but his legs gave away. Fight ended when referee halted it. Hagler won round 3. Knockout. Crowd erupted. One of the commentators was stunned at the most passionate battle sport had ever witnessed. Marvin didn't just win the fight, he told himself. Promoter Bob Arum remarked, "Tommy, he willed himself to win." Years later, Hearns handed Marvin complete "I cannot detract from." He stated his shyness messed me up. He fought hard, put on awesome show forever. Despite that, heartbreak continued. Though the fight ended in glory, next chapter would bring most damaging point of his career. That moment came quickly. Nobody fought. The battle. Remembering November 10th, 1983, Marvin Hagler entered the ring to defend middleweight title vs. renowned name Roberto "Hands of Stone" Duran boxing. Unlike Marvin's horrific Hearns conflict, this struggle was slow burning. About brutality or raw strength. About patience, strategy, and control. Thus, Duran was no ordinary opponent. By then, he was a world champion in 3 weights classes. Sugar was a legend. Ray Leonard fought back. Best athlete. Duran was cunning. He's tough and experienced. Wasn't easily defeated. He wasn't going to intimidated from the start. Was evident this fight would differ from most Marvins. Duran came to fight wild to fail under pressure. Instead, he employed timing, defense, and movement. Hassle Hagler for much off fighting. Duran remained out of reach, slipping punches and countering he could. Marvin generally broke aggressively, removing opponents. Recognized he had to shift tactics that early that he'd lose this battle. He needed smarts to use brute force. You had to be patient. The two men fought 15 grueling rounds. Competed in a boxing match. Technical war. Marvin slowed. He removed the ring and worked the body. Duran wasn't irresponsible. Dangerous throughout the battle, but Marvin never let him rule round after round. Marvin's better conditioning set in. Marvin slowed somewhat. Kept going, landing cleanly, winning exchanges and punches. At the last bell, Marvin hadn't scored. He was outboxed. Outlasted one of the sharpest all judges witnessed fighters in game. At a unanimous choice, even Marvelous Marvin Hagler wins. Though unglamorous, many boxed analysts cited this fight as Marvin's most comprehensive. He displayed everything: timing, footwork, defense, and ring IQ. He showed he was more than a fierce, aggressive fighter who could play a long game and defeat a master technician. But like many occasions in this win didn't help Marvin's career. Warranted media and fan attention, emphasized his knockout wins. Duran battle rarely appears, despite being a highlight reel exhibition of Marvin's talent, but a fight that would challenge his legacy, break his heart, was imminent. Corner robbed openly. April 6, 1987. Marvin Hagler entered the ring for the most debated and terrible fight of his life. His opponent that night was Sugar Ray Leonard, his desired fighter. Leonard fought for years, retired for about 3 years, and hadn't even faced a serious opponent, though lengthier. The combat was promoted the Battle of the Decade, and World Marvin was watching. Intended to conclude his legacy. He defeated everyone, all top contenders: Duran, Hearns, last of the Four Kings, Leonardo. Win over him would annihilate all critics and prove once from all who was best. The duel began with a collision of Marvin Hagler was famous for always present toughness and power. In contrast, Leonard was all-concerning rapid movement and quickness. Leonard employed combinations in battle that rang well. He stayed outside. Rapid jabs and panicked round ends to catch the judge's eye. Instead of fighting, he tried score and survive. Marvin always advanced. Struggled. He punched harder and he controlled the tempo, not throwing many punches as Leonard, but when connect, the effect was obvious. Focusing on ring removal, forcing Leonard to work constantly. Final bell rung, but it wasn't he. They no longer had control of judges, and then the decision caused heartbreak. Sugar Ray wins, split decision. A judge explained it to Leonard. Another had it slightly for Leonard. Third, Hagler was thought impartial. Gave Leonard one. World of boxing erupted in disagreement among fans and reporters. Think Marvin did enough to win, given his control over the pace and hit harder strokes. Critics said Leonard stole rounds by flurrying last 30 seconds. Even in Marvin's rounds worked better most of the time. It was called robbery by some. Leonard boxed smartly. Marvin Hagler felt betrayed. His entire career was spent battling demanding respect, often neglected or still ignored. Despite finally getting his biggest career battle, he thought the sport took it from. He thought the choice was made before the combat began. That media darling Leonard was always going win unless Marvin knocked him out. Marvin didn't beg after the bout. No complaints were made to the he left the commission. It declined to fight Leonard again. Notoriously, just tell Re to get a life. He retired at 32. Aged, Marvin Hagler quit sports. Boxing, not age, or he was hurt by heartbreak. It did not lose his combat spirit. He lost faith in the system, its control. His retirement, it wasn't festive. Point one of the greatest exile sport's greatest champions left no goodbye tour. No final victory lap. With little chance to recover, he assumed it was stolen. Never fought again. Heartbreaking finish. Boxing ended March 13, 2021. The world learned no one was wonderful. Marvin Hagler, sports legends, having died unexpectedly at 66. He was at home in New Hampshire. He lived quietly with his. No reports have mentioned wife Kay, illness without warning. He was here. Kay Hagler left suddenly to message the sad news. She wrote that Marvin died unexpectedly, surrounded by family. The brief announcement, it shocked sports fans, combatants, and when writers worldwide. People hear about long struggles with illness or hospitalization. This was unlike Marvin. Unwell, not passing away, just departed after the last bell. Unexpected. What followed was the expression of love and grief globally. People have grown up watching Marvin fight, forgot simply knockouts or titles. Booth carried himself proudly, strength and discipline. Knew him personally. Not only they lost a tremendous combatant, devoted and humble. Even his men fought in ring-heavy hearts. Sugar Ray Leonard shared the ring with Marvin in one boxing's most controversial fights history, expressing tremendous sorrow respect. He was hurt by the headlines and hailed Marvin a warrior, and champion Thomas Hearns competed with Hagler in an unforgettable 1985 war, honored them despite their intensity. Nevertheless, Hearns always respected social Twitter user Marvin said sharing the ring was a privilege, naming him one of the best ever do it. Roberto Duran, another four legendary rulers, also shared his sorrow, calling Hagler a good man, amazing fighter. Promoter Marvin worked with Bob Arum. His career peak, said, "He was one of my favorite people promoted. He was honest and loyal. Honorable." Arum shared what many boxers knew Marvin. Not only great in the ring, great outside too. Marvin, his death broke my heart. Been more than a boxer. Fighter, an emblem of hard labor, attention, and quiet grandeur, chasing the spotlight, which found him eventually, but never was always about Marvin's stardom. Respect, even in death. Enjoyment brought respect. Please enjoy this video. Subscribe and bell to never miss another celebrity look.